Welcome. We are the Nigeria group. This is our group project. All of us have spent a lot of time and effort to get this going. The members here are Allison, Tyler, Danny, and Matt.
The Hofstede Cultural Dimensions tool is a system of 6 different dimensions of national culture that aids those who are interested in doing business in another country with learning how the cultural differences affect the workplace. Nigeria scores an 80 on power distance in this dimension, which means that the Nigerians accept the hierarchical order of its people. In business, the employees at the bottom of the business totem pole would not attempt to mingle with management and vice versa. Nigeria scores a low 30 on individualism. This would indicate that Nigerians consider themselves to be part of a group. Each member of the group takes responsibility for each other. Nigeria scores a 60, which is considered to be a masculine society. In a masculine countries, people live in order to work. Managers are expected to be decisive and assertive, and conflicts are resolved by fighting them out. Nigeria scores a 55 on uncertainty avoidance. This is considered an intermediate score and indicates that they are neither more nor less comfortable than uncomfortable with the uncertainty of the future. Nigeria scores a low 13 on long-term orientation. This means that it's a more normative society. Normative societies place values on traditions and are concerned with absolute truth. Nigeria scores a high on indulgence, making it a very indulgent society. They would allow free gratification of natural human desires in regard to enjoying life.
Nigeria, there's 4 cultural scales that Nigeria and all other countries are ranked on. The first of these is communication. They lean towards being implicit, meaning that Nigerians might include hidden meaning in their words and will read in between the lines when in conversation with someone. The second one is evaluation. Nigerians prefer direct negative feedback, meaning that although they are not fully blunt in their approach towards confrontation, they address it more directly. Third is disagreement. Nigerians are confrontational. Disagreement is allowed in the workplace without fear of cause or harm to relationships and is often encouraged. And lastly, scheduling. Nigerians are flexible. They do not keep setting dates and find value in changing tasks and having interruptions.
In regards to negotiation and bargaining with Nigeria, a trusted relationship is the first thing needed to do business. You can expect to spend a notable amount of time developing a relationship with Nigerian before getting down to business. If they don't trust you, they won't want to do business with you. Wherein the United States conforms to a linear scheduling culture, Nigerians like to bounce around a lot, so you need to be flexible with your schedule. Nigerians love to haggle, so be ready to haggle and debate. You can also expect to hear more than one final offer. This can be a pressure technique used by Nigerians to get you to agree. Leave yourself plenty of room to negotiate from your first offer. Corruption and bribery are very common in Nigeria's public and private sectors. When doing business in Nigeria, the assistance of an experienced commercial lawyer is recommended.
Nigeria is a federal republic with a presidential system. Their constitution provides the separation of powers of 3 branches: executive branch, legislative, and judicial. An analysis of the NBS report reveals that the inflation rate of 12.13% is the highest recorded by the economy in the last 21 months. This is partially due to the current border closures due to the health concerns of the coronavirus. With increased inflation comes higher prices and often less consumer spending. This would be a temporary setback for investing in Nigeria, but would not necessarily be a long-term deterrent. Although President Muhammadu Buhari's administration promised to fight corruption in its campaign, they have a long way to go. Political corruption has been an ongoing problem in Nigeria for years. This poses an obstacle when considering investing and doing business in Nigeria because you risk breaking company anti-bribery policies and can put your company in jeopardy. Economic freedom can be defined as the fundamental right of every human to control their own labor and property, and the Economic Freedom Index was designed to help measure how economically free a country is by breaking down into 12 categories. and giving a score out of 100 for each. The lower than average portions for Nigeria were property rights, meaning that the legal framework is less supporting of acquisition and utilization of private property. Government integrity, the government is more corrupt and likely to apply extortion and bribes. Business freedom, the infrastructure hinders effective business operations. Trade freedom, there are more extensive non-tariff barriers. And finally, investment freedom, where there is a greater restriction on foreign investment and exchange. Nigeria outranks the world average in tax burden, meaning tax rates for personal and corporate income, as well as overall level of taxation are less stifling on citizens. Labor freedom, meaning Nigerians have lower restriction on regulations for minimum wage, severance requirements, and constraints on hours worked. And government spending. Government spending showed a difference of 30 points over average, meaning that per capita the government spent less money, although this result is skewed because the ideal score on this is zeros. So countries with a less established government see a low score for expenditures, but they feel adversely affected in areas where having an established government would be beneficial. We see this balancing of this outlier in Nigeria's lowest score in category government integrity with 20.5 points.
In regulatory environment of Nigeria, there are three main areas of concern for a business. Number one is stable electricity. Electricity is unreliable and expensive. This can be combated by operating in a city where electricity connection is stronger and better established. Backup generators might be needed for any machinery or tasks that need constant reliable energy. Taxes due. Paying taxes in Nigeria is a complex and often undertaken process. Having good accountants who understand Nigeria will help a company overcome this barrier. And lastly, trading across borders. Trading takes lots of time to import and export, as well as unreasonable amounts of money. A business should limit the amount of imported and exported products as much as possible, and if needed, might find it necessary to do manufacturing in a different country.
Most favored nation status is an economic position in which a country enjoys the best trade terms given by its trading partner. That means it receives the lowest tariffs, the fewest trade barriers, and the highest import quotas, or none at all. In other words, all most favored nation trade partners must be treated equally. Nigeria has been a member of the World Trade Organization since January 1st, 1995, and as such must comply by the most favored nation clause and treat all World Trade Organization nations equally when trading with other members of the WTO. Nigeria is also part of the 54 African Continental Free Trade Area, which allows the countries of Africa to trade with one another without the financial burden of tariffs. This encourages trade among members and builds prosperity in Africa. Increasing foreign direct investment in Nigeria is an ongoing goal of the Nigerian government. NIPC is working with other agencies of government, such as the Federal Inland Reserve Service, to increase awareness of investment opportunities in Nigeria among investors, to promote investments in Nigeria to domestic and foreign investors, and facilitate new and incremental investments. In 1995, the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission Act dismantled years of controls and limits on foreign direct investment, opening nearly all sectors of foreign investment, allowing for 100% of foreign ownership in all sectors, with the one exception of the petroleum sector. Even with these incentives, widespread corruption, political instability, lack of transparency, and poor quality of infrastructure limits the country's foreign direct investment potential.
Gross domestic product means the total monetary and market value of all finished goods and services for a specific time period. It serves as a comprehensive measurement of the economy's economic health by identifying overall domestic production. The World Bank does not currently have data for the 2019 calendar year for Nigeria, but in 2018, the GDP per capita was just over $2,000 based on the current value of the US dollar. This could indicate to our business venture that there is not a lot of investment and profit opportunity. Growth rate of a country's GDP is used to identify how quickly or slowly economy is growing or declining. Nigeria has been in a recession for the past few years based on 3 periods of a negative trend, although the economy seems to be recovering from it. It would be important for our business venture to find out the growth rate for 2019 to identify to what extent it has recovered. Nigeria's current inflation rate is 8.1%. Its 5-year trend shows a higher inflation year over year compared to the rest of the world. The trend we see is very similar to what is seen for their annual growth percentage, moderate stability in 2014 and 15, and especially bad 2016, and then gradual improvement through 2018. The strain on the citizens during this 3-year recession would have been heavy. Not only was work likely hard to find, but the price of goods and cost of living was inflating simultaneously. Lastly, lending interest rate is the portion of a loan that is charged as interest paid to the lender, which is expressed as an annual percentage of the amount of the loan outstanding. In Nigeria is rated a high 16.9%.
Nigerian's currency is the naira. The Nigerian naira has slowly lost value to the US dollar, with a few sudden movements in the past. The largest drawdown of the naira was in the middle of 2016 and happened due to the government injecting 616.5 million naira into the economy. When converting two currencies, differences in conversion rate from the date of contract to date of payment can have both negative and positive outcomes. If reducing risk of conversion rate movement is needed, businesses have choices in performing transactions in a single currency, using market hedges on lagging incoming payments, seeking fixed rates for future conversions, and producing contracts that consider currency exchange. These will almost all result in negative as added monetary or relationships costs will be at play when trying to mitigate risk.
Our first potential product import is a watermelon slicer. Nigeria certainly has an appreciation for Western culture, especially the younger generations, and have been exposed to Western media. I thought of the as seen on TV commercials, and we came up with the idea of a watermelon slicer for the product that is highly consumed in Nigeria and is cheap. This slicer is currently only sold internationally to be shipped and is not sold domestically. So we would plan to import and sell in markets and shops. The cultural issue that we might run into is the minimalist mindset of Nigerians who don't have much money to spend, trying to market a specified kitchen tool to a minimalistic society.
Our second product is muffins. Food is the top import for Nigeria, as Nigeria struggles to produce enough food on its own. Of the foods imported, cereal is on the top of the list. We believe that due to the popularity in imported breakfast food, prepackaged muffins are a great product to sell in Nigeria. The raw materials to create the muffins are cheap and could be imported or bought locally. The packaging process could happen inside the country, creating jobs and recognition. Sales would happen through local shops and marketplaces. This endeavor is also supported in that the average Nigerian has a low income. Muffins can be priced competitively to those of lesser income while still being priced above cereal. Our muffins will become a luxury breakfast food and a prized treat for those who would normally purchase cereal.
Product number 3, Twinkies. Sweets and desserts are popular worldwide, so who wouldn't love a Twinkie? There are no other products in Nigeria that resemble the Twinkie. The exact recipe would not be easy to replicate, which would give us a competitive advantage, at least temporarily. They're very inexpensive to make and ship, and there will not be any cultural issues.